This is Soul Talk. Hello, and I'm Nancy Olin Weber, and I've got a very special guest with me today. And you're going to hear about her first, and then I will introduce her because I've known her for a few years now, and I am so glad I met her. Wow. So her name is Pat Wetzel, and through her experiences, she has emerged not only as an individual who is wise, she's a speaker, podcaster, and author. See that book, Bump in the Road? If you order my weekly newsletter, you have seen that as a header and her name in it because it's the term that keeps happening in my head now since I met her and read her book. So in Bump in the Road, there are 15 stories, and they are all stories of courage, hope, and resilience. Actually, it opens with her story, and it's a wild one. I love it. It's incredible. I looked at her and went, "You did that?" She channels her unique perspective, weaving together tales of human strength and triumph. The story is based on her weekly podcast, Bump in the Road, same thing, inspire others to navigate life's bumps with hope and to find courage in the face of adversity. So, welcome, Pat. Pat Wetzel, author and podcaster, and so much more, and speaker, and more than that, a human being.
Thank you very much. What a
Yeah.
nice introduction.
Well, here's the backstory. I told her
Oh, here it comes.
here it comes. So years ago, I don't know how many years, not too long, maybe three, something like that. I had in an office group watched her, and she has lots of questions. Boy, does she ever have lots of questions. And I'm impressed because I never know what questions to ask. I feel like I am in kindergarten when it comes to that. And she's so good at what she does and what she asks. And I was so impressed. And when she asked me to be on a podcast, I was so thrilled. And we got to talking a lot more since then. Pat, you're one of the sharpest people I know and the most curious I know, and I love it in you. So, welcome, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much. They say curiosity killed the cat, but I don't believe that. I think curiosity is essential to an interesting life.
Ask a 2 year old.
May we all always be two, right?
Absolutely.
Well,
So,
this, no,
yeah,
go ahead.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a couple of questions for you I'd like to ask. So, Bump in the Road is on Amazon and everywhere, and I'll post all the links afterwards. Uh, are you doing any other books recently?
Yeah, I've been struggling with the second book, and I'm coming around now to what I think the topic's going to be. It's going to be very different than the first book, and it is going to look at what happens beyond resilience. I think we all build some degree of resilience as we hit bumps in the road. We learn, we get a little tougher, we believe in ourselves a little bit more, and all that becomes integrated into how we approach the next bump. But there are some people, and I've seen this on my podcast, there are some people who go way beyond resilience. It's like they hit warp speed and they enter a different universe and they really just take charge of their lives, the energy in their lives, the direction of their lives, and they live a very authentic, creative life. And I think that's available. That kind of transformation is available to all of us. But what are some of the keys that allow some people to make that vast gap, that vast um, movement forward, whereas the rest of us we're resilient, but we may not quite have the guts to leave the comfort zone that we've created. And our comfort zone's gotten bigger because we've become more resilient, but there's still more out there. Are we curious enough to follow it?
You see what I mean, folks? I love hearing her. I love going deeper and deeper with her. It's always a deep dive. And those of you listening, watching, you get what I mean about Pat. She gets it, obviously, because she's also modeling what she's asking, her curiosity got to her and her resilience has gone deeper, obviously. So there's a second book. Let's talk about Bump in the Road first, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
What made you start out with that one? What and I love the term. I use it all that and curveballs are my two favorite to explain what creates resilience and all the rest of it. And transformation starts there. But what led you to that? And to be an author, is that your first book?
Is my first book. As a kid, everybody thought I would write. I was the kid who rode her bicycle down to the library, borrowed 6 books, brought them home, read them all, and returned them before the due date. I mean, everybody always thought I would write. I won awards as a kid, but I took a more practical path. And so now, fast forward 6+ decades, and I'm really doing, I think, what I was meant to do.
What were you doing before that?
I have become a jack of all trades. I went to Wharton Business School and worked in financial circles in the bond market, doing leverage buyouts and things like that, and later in international strategic planning. I worked as an investment advisor shortly and just hated it. It bored me to tears. After dealing with big companies in the world and finance, I just could not care less if a doctor making $1 million a year on his third divorce was broke. I just did not care. So, and there's a little history behind that too, but let's leave that one for the moment. I've sold real estate. I've developed some real estate. I put together a film project, which is what led to Bump in the Road. I went through 6 years of cancer treatment, and out of that, I developed a website that would really hit home with the cancer community. And I later sold my house to travel. And as I was traveling, I got to thinking, well, if I'm lucky enough to do this, why can't other people? So the idea behind the film project called Cancer Road Trip was every quarter to give 7 people an amazing bucket list experience. The first trip was Tanzania. And we could get actually 3 episodes out of that trip. We could do Kilimanjaro and the metaphor of a mountain, Safari and the metaphor of survival, Zanzibar and the spice of life. So I'm out there raising money, getting commitments for this, and it's 2020. Travel shuts down. Talk about a bump in the road. I lost everything. Not only the money I'd put into it, but all my effort. So after 2 weeks of eating potato chips in bed, the really thick ones are nice and salty. I thought I have to do something with the social media following that I've developed. So I thought, okay, I'll do a podcast. But travel shut down. I wasn't really sure what to do. And the idea, I'm not sure it was my idea, came to do Bump in the Road. And I dove in. I knew nothing about podcasts. I knew nothing about the equipment. I knew nothing about the distribution. I just kind of dove in and started. I didn't know if anybody would listen. I didn't know if I could find any guests. But I'm now going into my fourth year, 3.5 years actually now doing this.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's a short version.
I know. I, oh, I don't know about anybody else, but is your mouth open going, really? Oh my God. And let's see, I got out of bed today. I'm thinking it all depends on who we are and our life. However, the drive in you and the passion for life is obvious. If you get nothing else besides, oh my God, she's amazing. Well, look at what she's done. And she does know what resilience is and transformation because she's done it. That deep passion commitment to life itself, I hear in you, and I love it in you ever since I first heard you. I'm very quiet on some groups that we've both been on with authors, listening to the questions because I know she's going to ask some or tell us some amazing pieces. And now I understand why technically she's so incredible too. I think she's the full package, don't you? Okay, so let's get back. So you wrote Bump in the Road, right? And
Yeah,
yeah,
I wrote Bump. Oh gosh, it's 2 years ago. Is it 2 years? Yeah, 2 years ago I was writing it. It was published last September. I wrote it because I was hearing these extraordinary stories. And I just felt that the wisdom had to be shared in some different formats. I look back at the book now and I realize these were some of my early guests. Since then, oh my gosh, I have enough material for 20 books, but I have to decide what I want to do.
Hmm. I thought you were looking at something about strong women.
Yeah, I was thinking that perhaps the initial idea that's still floating out there, this is all creative, right? Behind Bump in the Road, was to do a series of books, Bump in the Road, Strong Women, Bump in the Road, Business, etc. And that is still on the plate. But lately, I've just become so fascinated by what is beyond resilience. And I'm about to start doing some um, homework, looking at what's out there. What are people talking about? And there's traumatic growth, but I'm talking about beyond traumatic growth. I'm talking about people who really just step into almost a different energy and create a fascinating life.
Absolutely.
What is it about these people that do it? And everybody can access it. We all have it within us. So what are the traits? How do you do this? What are the things you need to learn? What are the things you need to let go of?
Wouldn't you think belief, if a belief doesn't help you get deeper in, wouldn't you want to change the belief and create one that allows you to connect deeper with everybody, everything, every living, the universe, etc.? And so that leads to a lot of people who are out there, like Bruce Lipton and Dispenza and all the rest of the groups who are using it. I think of years ago, Dr. John Diamond learned from Dr. George Goodhart, the founder of applied kinesiology. And George was a friend. We got interesting meeting at dinner. It was wonderful. And was a guest at his workshops a lot. He was wonderful. And John decided to break away, use applied kinesiology, music notes, and color,
Mhm.
and blend them. So what you're saying, there's a history of, and when we look at history way beyond that, centuries ago, thousands of years ago, there are those who have done what you're saying, right?
Mhm.
And they're the model for considering what in the world do you want to do to place the next phase, the next step in
And
connection with all
it,
life,
it
right?
it goes into beliefs, as you were saying, but letting go of beliefs is not easy. They're neurologically wired within us, and we have to undo that wiring, which is certainly doable. And I think
You did it.
personally,
You did it.
well, sometimes, well, I like everybody else, I struggle with some things.
Mhm.
But I think we learn through experience, and we learn through contrast, light, dark, happy, sad. So when you have extreme trauma of some sort, I think there's also extreme upside that is open to you.
Mhm.
And that is one of the things I see again and again. The people who really hit pretty significant bumps in the road have that opportunity to bounce back ever stronger on the other side.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's a choice. So
Yes.
when we don't see the choice, as you were saying, there are people who don't, there are people who do. So it's the people who know to step out of the role that of their own self-image that they have created over years and take a look and look in that mirror and see if this is what they are and who they are. Is that what they want?
And I think they have decided they're not going to respond to society's image that they've created for them, that society's created for them. We all have this, the expectations and everything else, and they have just decided to walk a different path.
I think also what you were saying, it's the pendulum, right?
Yeah.
And uh, the rebel, if you will, if they're young enough, then they have time to make a lot of mistakes, rebelling against the box of security or whatever people think that is, and being approved of. And they have enough time and enough experience. And so at any age, you can be much older and look back and see, well, this doesn't work, right? My question for you, and I used to, when I worked with a couple of psychiatrists in their offices, at the end of the day, we would sit and talk about chicken or egg, what came first, right? What makes some people choose to change?
That's a really tough question. And I don't know that I have the answer. I think sometimes you're so fed up with things, you just throw it all off and go down your own path. I think sometimes you have nothing left and there's nothing to lose. And when you're in that situation, what do you want to create? I think that for a lot of people that I'm just thinking off the top of my head, so many of the people I've spoken with, I think that there is a point where you're not afraid anymore. You're not afraid of dying. You're not afraid of living. You're just not afraid. And when you lose fear, you gain so much.
I, you remind me of a moment in my life, very much so. And I remember working on it for a year, visualizing a very different, didn't know what kind of outcome, but knew as long as I break a pattern, there'd be a different outcome.
Mhm.
There'd be a different feeling, physically, emotionally, mentally. And it was an amazing moment in time. Right. My mother was multiphobic, and I remember working on not listening. I was not a child. I think I was 31, 32, visiting them once the year, our yearly visit to them. And she said something that was absolutely insane. And I took her by the hand. I had never done that before. And I sat her down, held her hands, looked in her eyes, and said, "You are afraid of living, you're afraid of dying, and you want me to agree with you. I'll never agree to that with you. You need help. Get it." And that was it. And she was, for the first time in my life, she was speechless. So,
It's
yeah,
that's really interesting because I would characterize one of the one part of my life, the flying part, as life wish, death wish. And
I thought about that when I read your chapter on you.
yeah,
Thought, what made you, whoa, very impressive, no matter what
well,
it came from.
it goes to the point of having your world completely fall apart through no action of your own, and a little bit of serendipity and chance, a little bit of courage to do something totally outside the box, and the amazing rewards that can come from it. And I think the reason that's important, the life with death wish part, is that I think that as we go through these liminal spaces in life, these transitions, there are multiple stories playing at once. There can be the death wish part, there can be the life wish part. They overlap, they're not separate. And I think it's really important to recognize that we can have these multiple story threads simultaneously happening, and we make a choice about which thread we want to develop.
So you love quantum physics, huh?
I was never a science person. A math person, yes. A science person, no.
It's quantum physics. It's Stephen Hawking's Brief History of Time. You just put it in language we all understand. And for everyone watching, listening, that's Pat Wetzel, Bump in the Road author, podcaster. And there are two podcasts with me, so you can always go to hers and hear more. But if you hear anything and take away from it, interesting, and you have comments for her, you can put them in the comments. And I will give them to her gladly. Or you will have her website, you will have anything about her, so you can take those links and look up things and contact her because she's very curious about everything. Pat, it has been such a joy listening to you. I love you, and I love how you express things. They're beautiful.
Feeling is mutual. Thank you. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
inviting me.
And remember, Bump in the Road, folks, it's really worth reading. You will see, oh, it touches your heart the way it touched mine. So, Pat, I wish you all the best on everything you do and continue your journey, and hope one day you make a decision about your next book, because I'm one of your readers. So, everybody have a great day, and thank you for watching.